Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
We hope everyone is wonderful and you find yourself well today. Welcome to Marital Motivation with the Mackies. So, as always, we just ask that you take these 10, 15, 20 seconds right now, share the podcast, share it on Facebook, social media. It's on YouTube. We're not live on Instagram, but you can share us on Facebook and YouTube. But we have the Instagram page, TikTok page, you name it, we are on it. But share it with somebody. We know it's going to bless you. We know you're going to have a good time. We always have a good time. And we just appreciate everyone today. It feels like it's been forever since we've been on here because we took a little hiatus in August. We went on vacation, took some time together just to have what do we call it? Our annual abandonment. So yes. We abandon all responsibilities and everything that we got to do, and it's all about me and her. So what are we going to get into tonight, honey?
Well, before we jump into our topic, I just want to give a shout out to One Church ATL for our date night that we had last month. Had a ball. They did a restaurant hop date night for the married couples. If you've never heard of it, because I had never heard of it before, if you haven't heard of it, what we did is we all met at the church, jumped on a bus that they chartered, little shuttle bus, and we went to one restaurant for appetizers, a second restaurant for our entrees, and a third restaurant for our desserts. And what I loved about it so much was not only was it just time for us, our date night, what I loved about it was that we got a chance. Every time we made a stop, we ended up sitting with a different couple. And so just getting to share and talk to the other couples, it was just fun. It was a good time. It was a good night. And, hey, everybody at One Church ATL.
Hey, everybody. Pastor Stephen Bell, no, he is silly. He was the DJ on the bus, so he's doing songs, and he's giving us not even 2 seconds of a song to figure out what it is.
One note. Can name this song in one note.
But it was a great time. And one thing I like that he did is he gave us an assignment on the way at our last stop at the desserts. We had an assignment for the ride home, and it was every couple had to come up with their song. A song that either represented them, their love song or whatever. And we just played it on the ride back home, which was cool. And whenever the song came on, it's like, that's my song. So it was a good time. It was great. I really had a great time.
Absolutely. So
shout out to Pastor Green, Pastor Bell, your wives, the whole One Church ATL family, and the bus driver. Everybody.
And I throw this out too. I think there were 8 couples, 9 couples.
I don't even remember.
But out of the couples that went, they were asking how many couples had been married. They were trying to see who had been married the longest. How many couples had been married at least 20 years? Every single couple on that bus raised their hand. And then they kept going up. And I think the couple that had been married the longest was like 37 years or something like that. But it was just so full of wisdom.
Hey, Devin, I see you online.
Hey, Devin. But it was just a lot of wisdom flowing on that bus. And it was just a great time. So, but one of the things we want to share tonight, we were going to do it 2 parts with the questions, but we got such great responses from people. We reached out and we asked you to share with us some responses, and you did, and we got such amazing feedback from you all that we're probably going to break it up into 2 different sessions. I don't think we're going to get a chance to cover it all tonight. But one of the questions that we asked was, what were some things you wish that you had known prior to marriage? So tonight, we're going to understand the assignment because ain't nobody told me nothing.
She's been waiting all week to say
I have. I've been wanting to do that. That was like my tagline for the night, understanding the assignment. Because ain't nobody told me nothing.
She is silly. But one of the things before you go
Oh,
on into it, I just think this is really good for newlyweds. I
Yeah.
think this is great for folks that are thinking about marrying single, just got engaged, because we've been in the game for a minute, and it's just you think back on the things that you wish you had known. And people either tell you all the good stuff or they tell you all the bad stuff. And I think it's a mixture. There's some good things. I don't think anything's bad about marriage, but they're just things that you should know that you have to be prepared for. It's like going into a storm. You got to strap your boots on and you got to put on the extra layers and you got to get prepared for the storm. And I think a lot of couples go into marriage and they are not ready for the different seasons that they're going to encounter.
One of the things that I used to tell our children when they were growing up was even if you make the wrong decision, make an educated decision. At least know the facts, and I'll just throw this out there. If you're going to run out in the street after a ball, what are the consequences? What's more valuable, your life or the ball? Like, put things in perspective. Now, if you still choose to run out there, then you just made a dumb decision, but at least you knew the consequences before you did it. Just let me put that out there, We can get another ball. You can't get another child like that.
No. I'd rather keep my children. Glad they're in their 20s now.
Right. That's a blessing right there. That's a whole nother podcast right there.
Well, let's get into this one. Let's get into it.
So what we're going to do, though, we're going to run through some of the responses that you guys gave us. These are not ours. These are the ones that you all sent to us. And we're going to just expound on them. Like David said, for either newly married couples, for engaged couples, even if you're single and you're thinking, I might want to get married one day, at least make an educated decision. Okay?
There you go. What we got first on the list?
So some of these we combined, because sometimes they overlapped, and so we kind of combined them. But I'll start some things that people wish they had known prior to marriage, that the couple would not always evolve in the same direction. And I'm gonna go on and do the other ones that tie into that. That as a married couple, you won't always be on the same page, and how relationships and feelings change over time.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna let you expound on that first.
Well, actually, this came up while we were on our date night. And I remember Stephen Bell said, I don't know if it was Stephen. Was it me? I don't even know now. Anyway, somebody said, I ain't said it yet, so you'll know what it was, that you have to continuously fall in love with each other. And the reason is we forget that people grow, that people change. And then literally though, but that's the first thing that we throw in our spouse's face when something is transpiring. You've changed. You're different. You're not the same person I married. You're right. No,
you're not supposed to be.
I was 23 when I got married. I'm about to be 50 this year. And I would hope that I'm not acting out like a 23-year-old, but people change. And it's not just the age thing. It's just the maturity. Yeah. It's the different life choices that we make. And it's the midlife crisis. It's the having kids, and it's the losing a parent. It's losing a job. It's all of the things in life that we have to deal with. We mature, we change, we evolve. And as a married couple, you have to understand you've got to make a decision to love that person through the years. You don't just give up in the wintertime. Well, she does because she don't leave the house. But for the average person, you still go out, you still go to work, you still do what you got to do. And no matter where you find yourself in your marriage, you still got to love. You still got to have compassion. You still got to have empathy. You still have to have passion. You still have to have understanding. You still have to make good decisions. You still have to communicate. You have to listen. You have to do all of that. And throughout the different stages, you have to continue to fall in love and understand that no, you are not always going to be on the same page.
Yeah. And one thing you were just saying, I mean, I don't know how I'm gonna tie this back in, but I was thinking it when you were saying to talking, just saying, no different than as we age, your taste buds change.
Mm-hmm.
So there are certain things you may not like, but if you try it again, and your taste buds change. And then it may be something you love to eat. And as you get older, then all of a sudden now it's not pleasurable in your mouth anymore. You don't like the taste of it. So it changes. Well, the same thing in your marriage, though.
Yes.
Sometimes there are things that, okay, we've been doing this for 10 years, but I don't like it. Or this is something we've never done, but I'd like to do, so things change. And, I think one of the funny things about us as a couple, we are just as different as day and night.
Lord, yes.
When I say we are so totally different, we are just as different as day and night. Well, one of the things I had heard prior to getting married is you wanted, somebody like you, like you don't think about opposites attract, though. That's what a magnet does. Opposites attract. And I learned that even just with us, I love the fact that we're so different because you open my eyes to things that I wouldn't have normally seen.
Okay.
You take me places that I normally wouldn't have wanted to go, but I'm like, oh wow, I would have missed this experience, and so on and so forth. So saying all that to say, sometimes as couples, as those changes to come up, you have to learn to grow together. You can't just take separate paths.
Yes.
You can't go separate paths. You have to learn to grow together and all of that.
And and continuing on that same page, you're going to be at different levels at different times. You're going to be in different places and different strengths, different emotional states. And it just doesn't mean that it's the end of the world when things start changing. Most people don't like change.
That's true.
But it's inevitable.
It's the only thing that's constant.
It's the only thing that's constant. So when you find yourself in a situation, just understand that when you get married, the person that you're marrying today is not the person that you're going to be married to 5 years from now or 10 years from now. And that it's okay. And when things start changing, don't panic. If you truly love one another, your love will change and your love will shape and mold, and what's the word I'm looking for? It'll just bend into what's necessary for your relationship to grow.
I just also thought about this, when you have a newborn baby, you watch that baby grow, and that infant then becomes, the toddler, and then that becomes the one that goes, what I'm saying? And you grow with your child. You grow with them. You don't want the child to stay an infant forever.
Nope.
You do not want to have to keep birthing and changing diapers forever with the child.
Blowouts.
You want them to grow so that you can eventually become an empty nester. Thought I'd throw that out there again too. But yeah, so that's the same thing with the marriage, though. You want your marriage to grow, and you all grow together. It doesn't mean you agree with every single thing every single time, but still being able to respect each other through the changes and grow together through those changes. So y'all see why I said we're not gonna be able to get to the second part? Because I knew it was just so much we could add.
So many and so much, yes.
Another thing that came up was somebody said that they had wished they had known prior to marriage was the fairy tale aspect for women. And somebody else came back and we added this to that same thought. And that's thinking that marriage will make them whole. I'll start with that one because I love that. I agree with that because we so often, again, as little girls, all you hear are the fairy tales about how Prince Charming comes in, saves the day, sweeps her off her feet, and they go off and live happily ever after. And I don't care if you married for 1 day, 1 year, or 75 years, you're going to understand that that is absolutely not the case.
Mhm.
That happily ever after. No, you got to put some work in. You
Mhm.
know, I do believe that your marriage is what you make it, and it takes both parties to participate in making a good marriage, but it's not a fairy tale. And the whole thing, I'm coming to you because I know you got thoughts in there,
Yeah, it's all
but
good.
it
It's all
takes
good.
two whole people to come together to make a marriage. You can't come in half a person. You can't come in with these baby thoughts. You got to be whole, you know, in a marriage to make it work.
Yeah, that's the part that I really want to talk about. You got all the songs, you know, you need the yin to me yang, and you know, you complete me, and all of that. And it's romantic, yes, but it's so unrealistic. We have to realize we may not always be whole. Only the Father can make us whole. Only God can make us whole and heal all the hurts and fill all those empty spaces that we have in our hearts, you know. But when we look at the other person to make us whole in the relationship, then we put them on this pedestal,
setting up for failure.
And they're set up for failure. They will never reach that standard. They will never meet your expectation. And so then there is resentment, and then there's arguing, and then there's issues. And you didn't intend for it, but the source of it sometimes is your unrealistic view of the relationship. Oh, once we get married, marrying this man will make everything perfect. Marrying this woman will make everything perfect. But guess what? Marrying that woman is not going to change your anger issues. It's just going to amplify. Truth of the matter, if you don't get delivered, you know, marrying this man is not going to change your self-esteem issues. Marrying this woman is not going to satisfy your over-driven sex drive. Marrying this woman is, you can just keep going and going, because the marriage to that person doesn't complete that. It doesn't change that. Truth of the matter, it only amplifies those things, and it brings those things to light, and God will then use those things to help mold you and shape you and deliver you and grow you and mature you. But we got to get married. Newlyweds, folks think about getting married. Nobody's going to complete you but the Father. Nobody but God can make you whole. You can marry a person and they can enhance your life, you know, like a good seasoning. You know, I'm gonna take it back to food. Some of y'all out there don't know how to season your meat. You don't know how to season your chicken, your vegetables.
All right, chef.
But I'm just saying, it's like good seasoning. When you get in a good relationship, it just amplifies everything that is you and makes it better. But don't make you whole. Just, you know, all right.
Right, because if you put good seasoning on spoiled chicken,
say less.
Okay.
Still spoiled funky chicken, and you're gonna get salmonella. And you're gonna get sick. But it's a good analogy. You said it. If you are struggling with an issue, if you are struggling with whatever it is, and it's that one thing in the back of your mind, and you think that this marriage is going to make that thing different and make it better, no, it's not.
I just thought about this. I think one unrealistic thing that a lot of women do is, oh my goodness, my financial issues will be over when I get married. Well, if you're horrible with money as you're single, what makes you think that's going to change just because there are two incomes coming into one house and you still building up the same debt?
Right.
You know, and more debt because you feel like you got more money to spend.
So, it's not on topic, but that's maybe thinking something. A friend of mine said, you know, we were talking about marriage, and he had said he hates the phrase happy wife, happy life. Because he said, my wife just loved to spend money. So if I just let her spend money, she's going to be happy, but we're going to be broke. But anyway, go on to the next one. You know who you are.
Oh goodness.
Mm-mm.
Okay, next one's real good. The next one is the importance of extended family dynamics. And then the part A to that is that the relationship with in-laws is significant to the spouse and how to navigate. Someone said that's what they wish they had known. And that's so funny because I don't think you probably had to deal with that more than me initially in the marriage because I was so close to my family.
Yeah, but I don't think it wasn't in a negative way.
Well, when we were going to Outback every single Friday and you wanted to go somewhere different to eat because that was our family time. So that was our family thing. That was our family time. We would always get together every Friday and we would go out to eat. And it just so happened that Outback was the place that we went, and we went every
Friday. I don't know how many years straight, y'all. I went to Outback every Friday.
Not that he didn't enjoy the conversation and being around all the ladies and stuff. I'm just saying.
Only man. And then once the meal is over, I got to stand outside for another 30 minutes while they continue to talk.
Yeah, family time. That's what we do.
So anyway, but no, I don't think it was so much an issue, but I think that so many couples do battle with that, and understanding that your family is important to you. They were your family before we got married. And yes, the two become one, but it's still your family. It's still your parent. It's still your sister. It's still your cousin. It's still whomever. And I'm on the outside looking in on that relationship. So my vision or my assumption of things is not always going to be right because I'm not in that relationship.
You don't know the inside of all
right. And something to me may be so simple. And why don't you just do this? But that's your family, and there's so many other dynamics of it that I don't understand. You know, so yeah.
You know, and even beyond that, I'll even take it to a whole nother level. We're at that age now where with our generation, you know, our parents are starting to pass, and you know, we're at that age where now we're having to, or even if they're still living, you know, having to take care of them because they're getting older, and we're having to, you know, having to pour more into them. That's not something you talk about in premarital counseling. You know, that's not a discussion that comes with.
We had that. We had that hours.
Yeah, now we know, but that's just not something that most people go into a marriage knowing and understanding. You know, just that whole, you know, you used to always hear all these horror stories about the mother-in-laws. You know, that was always and I guess it came from television, whatever. I don't know where it stemmed from. I don't know, you know, but you hear all of these horrible stories about how the mother-in-law is always this, that. You know, but at the end of the day, that in-law is still the other person's mother. That's the one that gave them life. That's the one that is significant to them. So absolutely, the husband and wife have to cleave to each other, but that does not take away the dynamics of the fact that there are other family members that are important to that person.
I'm about to go Bible for a minute.
All right, go for it.
So people are always going to use the two become one. You leave your mother and your father, you cleave to your wife, and the two become one. People will use that scripture as a wedge into family. But if God is omnipotent, God knows everything. He's always been around. And then the Jewish custom was that you got married and you moved in with your husband's family in their house, and you just built on an addition to that house. How is it that you're going to leave your mother and your father and cleave to your wife and become one, but you still have that family dynamic? So that's why you can't just be like, well, we just cleave and we won and nobody else matter. No, they do matter because we're all God's children. You know what I'm saying? And God is all about relationship. So we just have to consider that. Your spouse's family is important to them, and they should be important to you, because what's important to your spouse should be important to you. What affects your spouse affects you, you know. So, but that is a hard dynamic for a lot of people. And a lot of people, like I said, they don't talk about when your parents are going to get older and how you're going to handle that, and Are we going to take care of them? Are we going to put them in a home? Are they going to move in with us? You know, that's stuff that you really need to consider, because it can cause a lot of friction. Even if you just get married, and what happens if you get married and then 3 months later, a year later, something does happen to your parents? Your parents may be young, but something happens and they need to depend on you.
Yeah.
If you've never had that conversation, it's going to be some trouble in paradise, as they say.
Yeah. It's a good conversation.
This is a good conversation to have.
Yeah. Yep. All right, we're gonna push through this next. We're pushing.
Okay.
Something you wish you had known prior to marriage: how to fight fair. Now, you all know that we're big on talking about fair fighting, you know, because you can't hit below the belt, you know, and all of those little different things. So yeah, that is a big topic, because it's not like most people did not see your parents arguing in a healthy way. Either you saw them arguing where it was abuse, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like even when we had disagreements, I didn't do it in front of the children.
Yeah, but everybody's life is different. Everybody grows up differently. So you have the people that grew up with an unhealthy household. They may have seen their parents argue, yell, throw stuff, you know, unfortunately, physical abuse. You have people that have grown up in a household where everything was just cool and nobody said anything. Everything was swept under the rug. You got relationships where people are just, everybody can have it out. Everybody can just yell, say what they want to say. There's no boundaries. And then they hug it out afterwards and they keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? There's just so many different dynamics, and everybody thinks that their dynamic is right.
The right way. Right.
But it's not.
That's the point.
You're right. It's like we all go into a relationship thinking we fight fair. We all go in thinking, yeah, I know how to communicate. I know how to discuss something with this person without hitting below the belt. And then the first thing we do is jab. You know, and we're picking apart the what's the word I'm looking for? Where their integrity, or we're talking about physical attributes, and we're just attacking them, we're tearing them down.
It has nothing to do with whatever you call it.
Nothing to do with the disagree.
Yeah. So some people, I think that was a good one to say.
I think everybody should go through not just premarital counseling, but I think that everybody should do a, you know, conflict resolution class or something, because even when you're dating, you may not experience. We didn't experience that when we were dating. You know, I'll tell you, we probably said it before. You know, first thing I told Leslie when we were in premarital counseling, and they were like, "What are your fears?" You know, and I was like, "I'm gonna hurt her feelings or something," and she was like,
"You were mean."
I told her I was mean. You know, yes, right. I was mean, and I can be. You know, I can just shut off all compassion and empathy like a switch. Just okay, I'm done. You know, and I knew that, but in our dating, we never had that situation, you know. And so she's like, "Oh, he's so sweet, he's so nice." Girl, nah, you know.
And I think that was a piece of good advice that was given to me before marriage was, what if he tells you he's mean, believe him. Like, he knows himself better than you do. So if he's telling you that, believe him.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, but I still can't say. I mean, I've seen you angry. I've seen you have mean moments, but I still feel like you have not, well, maybe one time, been directly mean to me. You know what I'm saying? So I still stand on what I said.
I think when you value the heart of the person that you're with, you don't want to crush them. When you value and you love someone like you love yourself, or actually even more than you love yourself sometimes, because we can beat ourselves up, but we can have so much compassion and empathy for the other person. But when you are truly in love and that is your person and you are one, the minute you lash out, there should be some, man, I can't believe I did that. Some condemnation in your heart, some conviction. I mean, conviction, more not condemnation, but conviction, some conviction, because that's your person. You know what I'm saying? It's just like going out and keying your own car. You're like, I just bought this brand new Porsche. It's tight. It's the color. It's the interior is great. Let me just go get a can of paint and just pour on it. You don't do that. And I know that's an extreme example, but that's what we do in a relationship when we are tearing each other down. So, all right. I know I'll keep going and going and going.
Okay, gotcha. So this next one had a lot of parts to it because it all fell again together. Mm-hmm. So knowing our godly order, that it should be God, then your spouse, then your children, then your family and friends, and then ministry. Mm-hmm. To prioritize your spouse over your children and how to do so.
Mm-hmm. And that it's okay.
The early years with small children will be hard on us both physically and emotionally. Just know as they grow up and eventually leave the nest, we still have each other. Mm-hmm. You're not just marrying your partner, you're marrying the family and all that it comes with. Be prepared and be ready to make sure you put your family, the one that you make with your spouse, the priority. That's the most important family from now on. Mm-hmm. Then when or if you have children, the child comes after the husband. Your husband can feel like a second child or pushed off if the order is reversed. Should be God's spouse, then children.
Now, is that what I added after we was discussing this? I don't remember talking about that one after that.
Which one? The last one?
This last one.
Oh no, it was all on there. That was all on there together.
Okay.
I'm gonna sleep. He was sleepwalking. But I'm going to touch on this one because I had a hard time with that when my children were little. I had a really, really hard time saying that my children came after my husband, because I felt like if you have this little innocent child that cannot get up and prepare its own meal, can't feed itself, can't do whatever, why would I put that? And this came up, oh my goodness, I don't know if you can remember this. This came up with a topic with somebody back when we had little children, saying, when you're preparing food, do you feed your husband first or do you feed your children first?
I don't remember that.
Oh my goodness, I can't remember the who, but I remember this whole conversation. And my thing was, my husband if I could prepare the food, he can make his own plate. He's okay. But I need to make sure I'm getting the kids taken care of, whatever. I was like, I cook. So I put the food out, he can make his plate. The kids can't do that. And that's just
I'm just cracking up because I don't think it was ever an issue for me.
It wasn't an issue for you.
It was never an issue because my thing was, the kids got to eat. Let's work together. Let's make it happen. Let's do it. So.
But yeah, and somebody said Devin said that was a whole argument on social media last year.
Oh.
And I didn't even know about that. But that was the whole thing, though. He's capable. God gave him two good hands. He can make his own plate. If I prepared the food, let me take care of my children. And I didn't see that as putting the children over my spouse, whatever. But certain things, people will look at that like that, to say, this helpless child, how can you say you putting somebody else over that person, whatever, even to extend it I can bring this up because I watched this movie recently, like this week on television. I watched this movie. And it was one of those things of, if there's a disagreement between the child, and they were not direct, he was the step, which I don't, like using that term, but he was the stepfather. Okay. But the disagreement was between the stepfather and the child. And then the mother was put in this position, like, whose side you gonna pick? Whose side you gonna be on with that kind of deal?
I think there's levels. First of all, with the whole making my plate, I'm capable. You do that for me, and I love that you do it. I don't expect it. You know what I'm saying? But you do that for me, and I think it's sweet. But I think there's different levels to putting your children before your spouse. And you used to always use the analogy of you got to put the air mask on yourself on the airplane before you put it on the child. It's the same thing. You have to make sure your relationship is good. Because if your relationship is not good, the children become collateral damage.
Oh, absolutely.
In that. So that's what when I say put your husband before your spouse, it's not that you neglect your children. You're both there to take care of the children. You're both there to teach. You're both there to nurture. You're both there to groom them and help them grow in God and grow into the responsible adults, you know. But there's those times and there's those things where people will put their child, like you said, in that aspect of, if you're a united front, if you were married, whether it was a stepfather, a second husband, or whatever, y'all are married. Y'all got to be on the same page. And you don't side with the child over your spouse. You have united front. And you figure out a way. And even if you talk about it later and you disagree, you come to some type of agreement and you come back to the child together and deal with it, you know. But I think that for a lot of men comes down to a lot of times sex and intimacy, or I should just say sex, but I'll say intimacy.
Sex.
But you know, it's when children come into the picture, things change, you know, and you're not as physical as you were. And, you know, your wife is tired. Your wife just had a baby. Her body has been through a trauma, you know, and if you're working and she's staying at home, or if you're both working and, you know, I don't care what nobody says, a wife never stops. A wife never stops. Even if she works outside the house, she comes home, she still does multiple things. And we as men have a tendency, we need that unwind time. I'm not saying that women don't, but I think a lot of men need that decompression time, but we extend it too long. You know, and then the wife feels like she's doing everything by herself. And then we want intimacy, but you can't get intimate because your wife is worn out. Your wife is tired. She's exhausted. She's worked. She's doing things with the kids. And sidebar, if I hear another man say I'm babysitting my children,
oh my goodness,
you're not babysitting your children. You're watching your children. They're your children. You know, you ain't babysitting them. That's what other people do.
You're being a father
for your kids. You're being a father. But anyway, understand the importance of prioritizing each other first.
Yeah.
Then everything else works out.
Yeah.
But everything also has to be balanced. It can't be a full swing to everything's about my husband or everything's about my wife and the kids are way down here, or everything's about the kids and then the spouse is way down here. You've got to narrow the gap and find a balance.
Yeah. And I'm going to throw this out there too, of course, with me being married to a pastor, I appreciate the fact that you don't put ministry before me. Now, of course, God is first.
Absolutely.
You know, that's no question about that, because I'm not trying to get struck down and killed, trying to get in God's way. God is absolutely first, but ministry. And we did have a season where that was out of balance, you know, where I can remember we would be sitting down and I would cook dinner and we would sit down and you take your first bite and the phone would ring. It would be a ministry call. And then I'd be left sitting there eating by myself because you would go and take these calls and, you know, different things like that.
Or when I was over the video ministry at another church, she used to call my laptop my mistress, because we would have service. I was a director, record all the media, we do everything. And then I take my laptop and we at home, we have family time, and I'm editing videos and I'm doing this and I'm in the bed and she's talking to me and I'm just, and doing my thing, and there was no connection, you know, and she had to have that conversation with me, and I was open to it though, you know. So communication is everything. So everything. And I know a lot of these things may seem simple, but they're not, because they're on the list. These are things that people have said they wish they've known. And I think the biggest thing is, I don't think that people don't know. I think people don't take it seriously.
I think it's twofold. I think that sometimes
with some things.
Yeah, because there are some things that you can tell somebody, but until you're faced with it, then you really don't know it.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that my counselor always says is one thing to know something in your head, but if you don't know it in your heart, then you don't know it. You know, so I do think that there are some things that we may know, but we don't know until the situation is in front of you, you know, and that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, that's a better way of saying it, you know, because I'm headline. I'm just going to keep it simple.
I'm going to give details. So, and I'm going to say this too. Some of the people who responded to our questions have been married and are divorced. Some have been married, divorced, and remarried. Some are married, you know, so it was different people. So some of these also came from people to say, had I known this, maybe my marriage would have been able to withstand the times, you know. So that's why I love getting those responses from everybody. So, all right. So the next one was, one thing that I wish I had known was how much compromise matters.
Ooh, Jesus.
Does that mean we can't be selfish in marriage? Is that what that means? We got to compromise? Ooh, you want to touch on that?
Sure. I'll touch on that one. I think compromise is probably the most misunderstood word in marriage. One of the most misunderstood. Because I think when people think compromise, they think, oh, I just have to give up my opinion for their opinion. Because we're selfish. And that selfish part of us is like, I don't want to compromise. I just want to do things my way. You know what I'm saying? It's been me all these years, you know, and compromise is hard, but compromise is not. Compromise is only hard if you don't have empathy and compassion. Compromise is hard when you don't value your mate's opinion. If you look in, I think it's Romans 14, 15, somewhere around there. There is a verse in First Corinthians, but Romans and in Corinthians, there's a couple verses where they always talk about sound mind, peace, and unity. And it's always together. Sound mind, peace, and unity. You can't have unity. If you have unity, you're going to have peace.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? If you're like-minded, not sound mind, like-minded. If you're like-minded and you communicate about stuff and you talk about it, you can be on the same page and on one accord, and compromise is not that hard because you're talking about it and you weigh the good and you weigh the bad. And then you're on the same page. And guess what you get? Peace. And your marriage is good. But if you don't talk about stuff, that's also what makes compromise hard. Because it's just, it's the, I just don't want to compromise. This is my point. This is your point. But we're not talking about all the different levels that are involved in it. You know?
Yeah, because I'll even give a moment of compromise for tonight for me.
What's that?
And that was, I was willing to do the podcast tonight instead of having my husband take me to go get Korean barbecue. But we talked about it. So the compromise is we were going live tonight, but I get Korean barbecue this weekend.
Yes.
Compromise.
I don't think I was aware of that compromise. Other than
because I was just waiting on you to have a day that you either opened or you were off so that we could go.
Yeah, we talked about it,
but we communicated about it. So when you gave me a when we were going to go, then I was at peace.
Yeah, but back to the compromise of what we're talking about. Compromise is hard, and we have however many years we've been alive of doing things a certain way.
Yeah,
it's like getting on a new job, and you may be in the same field, but it's a new job. What is your first habit? To do things the way you did it at your last job.
Yeah.
And you're in a new relationship. You're in a marriage. Your first instinct is to do things the way you've always done them in your previous relationships, whether they worked out or didn't. And so when you get to a new relationship, you've got to find out what works for this relationship.
Okay. All right. I just looked at our time. We got to push through this because we're just on hour number 7 and we still got a bunch more to go. And we got few more minutes, so we're not going to expound on all of them.
15.
Okay,
you
all
know,
right.
We'll go to that. You
Okay.
know, we have some that go over.
So we don't have to expound on all of them, but we
no, we need to. I like to.
Okay. How much? Okay. Wish I had known how much work is involved in producing a happy marriage. Somebody else said, wish I had known that marriage is work. You have to work at it, and you can't wear rose-colored glasses. You have to maintain it. The marriage does not grow just because you are there. Now, I said that is a mouthful right there.
Who that preacher?
I know. I don't even know where that one came from. I wouldn't say it anyway, but I'm just saying.
I remember.
But my thing, I love that because that is so true. Just because you walked down the aisle and said, I do, and now just because you're present and you both live under the same roof and you're, breathing the same air does not make a happy marriage. It just makes you present.
Makes you roommates.
That's it.
I think it was, well, no, I know it was a Weekend to Remember that we did with whatever that church.
Family Life.
Yeah, Family Life, Weekend to Remember. And they said, if you are not actively trying to come together in a marriage, everything else is trying to pull you apart.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so true.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just get married and not put any work in. And the work can be hard, but your work can be fun. And I love that you always say that you love your job. Marriage is work, but you love your job.
I do.
We can put that on a t-shirt. Just saying. But it's a lot of work. Yeah. It's a lot of work. And it's a lot of work here on yourself.
Yeah.
You can't change nobody else but yourself.
Yeah. How
you react to things, how you misinterpret things, how you get upset about things that don't even need to be getting upset about. There are so many times in our relationship and our marriage over the years where I'm just like, Mackie, you tripping. It's just you. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, yeah, it's just me. It got nothing to do with us. It ain't got nothing to do with anything but me. And I got to do the hard work of dealing with my issues in order to make our marriage better.
Yeah, because one of the things, though, that I've learned over the years, though, is that everything that we do, we see it through the lenses of what we've gone through. Mm-hmm. So you're going to always, you deal with people through your traumas and what you've gone through until you've been healed from them. And in my situation, of course, in my life story, it was dealing with the loss of my mother. With my mother dying with me when I was 13, then that was that, is my husband going to die? Is my husband going to leave me? Am I going to be abandoned? So therefore I've got to do everything so perfect so that my husband won't leave me, because if he leaves me, it's my fault. What did I do wrong? I've got to, and so with that, I had to do the work. Even though I was trying to be perfect, and in trying to be perfect, I'm sure that probably annoyed you in a lot of areas because even still what I thought was perfect wasn't perfect in your eyes,
right.
And it caused conflict with that. So through all of that, though, it's a matter, even with putting in the work, it is mostly working on you.
Mm-hmm. You got to allow God to. All right, two parts. We've said this before, that God is going to use your spouse to work out all them imperfections.
Friction.
All the stuff that you need to grow. Who better than the person closest to you, But within that, you've got to allow God to use those situations and circumstances to grow you. And you've got to learn how to surrender to the Father and let him wash some stuff away, heal you of some things, because when you do look at stuff with those rose-colored glasses, if you look at everything through depression, or if you look at everything through a loss and abandonment, mine was trust, if you look through everything with, you can't trust people with your heart and your emotions, yeah, every relationship's going to fail because you're going to sabotage it. Yeah, people are going to leave you because you're going to push them away. You know, you subconsciously do the things
that you don't
want to do to make the thing that you don't want to happen. You know, and so yes, it is work, and you just got to do it. You just got to do it.
Yeah. Put the work in.
Stephen Bell on the line. We are going to have him on. We're going to have you and your wife on here. We've got to work that out. But that man is silly to me.
So the next one we're going to hit is that my spouse, I wish I had known that my spouse is not the actual enemy, but the enemy is using something to cause confusion behind the scenes. He said, "What's up?" Yeah, that is good, because when we get angry with something that happens in the relationship, you know, we automatically, point fingers, automatically you become angry at the other person, you know. But again, like you said, that I like that is not the person. David is not my enemy. We on the same team.
Say that.
We on the same team. Sometimes you get shot with friendly fire, but we're on the same team.
Yep.
And I just have to know, we talk about that because I know he is my friend. When I do get hurt by something he does or something he says, I know it was not intentional hurt, because I know he loves me and he's my friend and he would not do that.
But that goes against everything society says.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, there's like, I think about all these reality shows and game shows or whatever, where it's like they're on a team, but at some point the team breaks up and then they're against each other. And there's all these alliances and stuff under the table. And it's like, we sometimes absorb this stuff and we think that our spouse is the enemy, or our spouse can't be trusted, or our spouse is going to turn their back on us or do something intentionally to hurt us. And that's not the case. Y'all are on the same page.
Yeah.
Y'all are the same team. Y'all are one. You know, I'm not trying to cut my arm off. You know, I'm not trying to stab myself. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to make everything better, you know, and we don't think about it like that. We literally, it's like the minute something is her fault, or it's her. No, it's not. 9 times out of 10 is God pointing out something in you. And question my eyes. This is what I started asking myself probably about 10 years ago. Are you mad at Leslie? Or is there something that God is trying to show you that you have got to change in yourself? Because if, like you said, you were my friend, I know you're not doing things to intentionally hurt me, but I also know there's no reason for me to be as angry as I am. So that's not me. That's not what I'm called to be. So, all right, Lord, what is it that's got me what is it that got me all riled up? And 9 times out of 10, something within me, my insecurity about something, me upset with myself because I didn't meet an expectation, or I didn't meet a need, or I was looking through rose-colored glasses through something from my childhood, and it was like, it ain't even got nothing to do with her. It's this thing right here. Deal with that. And then, you know.
A lot of people, I think, don't have that self-awareness. You know, I think I've always been the type of person, and again, I know it came from things from childhood, that I immediately would internalize something before putting it external, you know, pushing out. So if something would happen immediately, what did I do wrong? How could I have done this differently? How could I have done, you know, whatever? Again, that goes back to that. I got to be perfect so that you don't abandon me. You know, going back through that. And I thank God for deliverance and for, you know, for healing, even in my own emotions, of learning different ways of doing that. But that's still a part of who I am. Is if something comes up, even before I'm going to address it, and whether that's with you, whether it's with something with work, whether it's with a friend, whatever, before I'm going to address it, I'm going to check me first. That's how God made me. I'm going to check me first.
And more people need to do that in their relationships. We have to check ourselves first before we lash out. We need to check ourselves first before we accuse and start pointing the fingers.
Yeah. Okay. When you're I wish I had known. When your spouse holds you accountable, it is not an attack, but a calling for you to go higher. I got a feeling that came from a man.
Yeah, I know. That 100% came from a man. But it's so much in that statement. It's so much. Okay. Yes, 100%. I think a lot of us as men, we have a problem with our wives holding us accountable for things. And it's that, but it's also that undertone that we're told that your wife is your wife, not your mother. Like that plays so much
Oh, you
into it.
grown. You ain't got to tell
Yeah,
her
but
you grown.
right. And it's like, you're not my mama, you know, and I think that undertone is in so many men that it's not even about her being your mom. It's about you got to be a man of your word. You know, if you say you're going to do A, B, and C, you've got to do A, B, and C. And that is how you prove yourself. That is how she feels secure and she feels safe because she can trust the words that are coming out of your mouth. And it's not an attack. It's just, it's important to her. A core of a woman needs security and safety. So if you don't keep your word, she's going to be uneasy. She's going to have anxiety. You know what I'm saying? Because there's that fear of what if he doesn't keep his word again, you know? So, but on the flip side,
I had a feeling.
Ladies,
okay,
just watch how you say it. Know your spouse. We know our spouses, so we know what triggers them. We know what buttons to push, you know? So you can hold your husband accountable. You can have those hard conversations. It's just sometimes it's just about the tone.
Okay, I can accept that.
What? You ain't got nothing to say on that one?
I'm gonna be mute.
Nah, I don't like you mute.
No, I get that. You know, the first place my head went with that one though was, you know, a man not even wanting to tell his wife where he's going. Like if he leaves the house, I'll be back. You'll be back. Where you going? You know, and then I always think about, yeah. And then of course I go to that scripture. The Bible tells the man to love his wife the way Christ loved the church. And when he left, he told us where he was going.
He went to prepare a place.
And he said he was coming back. So, I mean, you know, there you go. Just saying. Okay. Wish I had known before marriage that certain friendships are seasonal. The friends that made up your circle while you were single more than likely won't be beneficial to your relationship.
Wow. I really can't comment on this one because I didn't have a lot of friends. I got a few. So, but I guess the one thing I would say is I agree with that because it just depends on the mentality of the friends. If the mentality of the friend is still partying and single life and all of that, and they are not bringing a benefit to your life and your marriage, then yes, I can see that. If they're the person that's like, let's go clubbing, and you're like, no, I need to spend time with my wife, and you're like, all you whipped and all you do is stay at home with your wife, yeah, that relationship eventually is going to die away. You know, so
or it's gonna pull you out of your marriage,
or it's gonna pull you exactly and put you, and you're gonna allow yourself to be put in a place that you shouldn't be.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I wouldn't even necessarily just say partying, but the thing is, if your friendship with the single, you know, not, even if it's not a party atmosphere, but if it's always wanting to hang out, just the boys hanging out all the time, and then you leaving your wife at home with the kids, and you're not a part of it, then it pulls you, you know.
And not to say that you can't still be friends, it's just the dynamic is going to change.
It's going to be a shift in there. Yeah. Okay. I wish I had taken time to truly know myself better. I was always reacting to whatever he said. Extra parts that go with that one, it says making sure I was ready mentally, financially, physically, professionally, and spiritually. And the last part of that says during the marriage, remember to take time for yourself to pursue hobbies, education, etc.
Okay. You want to hit that one?
I'll touch on that one
Okay.
because I think that's a mistake that I made in our marriage, especially in the beginning, is I lost myself. I did. I lost who I was. And it was so easy for me to lose myself because I really didn't know myself. Again, dealing with 13-year-old traumatized child losing her mother, I think, how sometimes they say that people, when they're on drugs, then when they come off of the drugs, they're still mentally at that age where they were when they were on the drugs, whatever, when they started. I think for me, but prior to the healing and growth, that I kind of got stuck at 13 and some things.
Okay.
And so I really did not completely know who I was when we got married. So therefore, it was so easy for me to say, I'm going to do this because this is what my husband likes. I'm going to do this because this is what the kids want. I'm going to do this. And I forgot about me. I really did. I just forgot about me. So I think it is very instrumental before you get married. Like we talked about being whole, you need to know yourself so that you know what you're bringing to the table, what you're bringing to the marriage, and then I do think it's good still to have things that you do outside of your spouse. Yes,
100%.
I've always been so grateful to you. You've allowed me to go back and, do some ministry classes that I desired to do because I'm still learning the spiritual side of me and what God has called me to do. And so you've allowed me to go back and do those classes and, hobbies and things like that. I love that. Singing, you've always been supportive of me. It popped up in my memory recently when I sang at the coffee house with the young lady and stuff. And, but you've always been right there. I mean, back then, if you had to hold the kids while I was, whatever through ministry, you've always been there. But I think that that's the part of me because I knew who I was as a singer. I didn't lose that part though. So if you know yourself and you know those things, they are important to hold on to.
Yeah, I think in relationships and marriages, what happens is you become enablers to each other. You two individuals becoming one, but you are still an individual. And you tend, like you said, I'm going to do this because this is what my wife wants to do, because you compromise. But sometimes, like I said, everything has to be balanced. Right. But if you're always compromising to do what your husband wants to do, if you're always compromising to do what your wife wants to do, and it's not reciprocal, then you lose yourself.
The balance of it,
one thing that somebody said is like making sure that they were understood themselves as spiritually, mentally, physically, all of that. You can't expect to go into a marriage being perfect. God calls us broken, tattered, bruised, horrible, and he says, come unto me, and this marriage is also, I don't want to say marriage is the same, but you have to understand that you're going to grow and you're going to change, and you're not perfect when you get married. You are going to have some issues, but you still have to know who you are. You may not be in the financial point that you want to be. You may not have a house, but you got a car, you got a good job, you've been renting and you've been taking care of your business. So you may not be in the financial place you want to be, but that doesn't mean that you can't get married. People always say, well, I'm waiting for more money before I have kids. You will never have enough money to have kids.
Never.
Point blank, period. Never, ever.
If that's what you're waiting on,
but all of those things, some things are extreme and some things are not. And I think you have to know yourself. You should know that you're in a good place mentally. Absolutely. If you know you have depression, and if you know you are dealing with different mental illnesses, or if you know that you're dealing with different things and you're not doing what you need to do to grow and heal, then I don't think you should get married, because you're not doing the things that you know are necessary for you to be better. And then you're going to get in a relationship and then you're going to destroy two people. So may not want to hear that.
Yeah,
but
agree with that.
Yeah,
agree.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Wish I had known conflict resolution for both big and small problems.
Second part, discuss that.
Yeah.
I think everybody should go through a conflict resolution class.
Yeah, like this. You know where conflict resolution?
No, I'm gonna make one.
But is that something
all right,
Lord
Lord,
is putting in your heart for us to do?
Must be, because
that's your second plus time bringing that up. So yeah, so maybe stay tuned. Maybe that's something to come. I just, because I'm like, where's a conflict resolution class? But I mean, I think it's necessary.
So many people have issues with conflict and confrontation, and I'd say it on my job all the time to my managers. Conflict is not a bad thing.
But if you've been taught that it's bad,
right? So not conflict. Confrontation is not a bad thing. Sorry. Confrontation is not a bad thing. You're just confronting something. You're deciding to address an issue, so it's another one of those words in the English language that, I have an issue with, because people just, but confrontation is okay, fair. And it's like, you can have a difference. You just have to learn how to communicate the difference in the right way. You've got to learn how to communicate your issues, your thoughts, without yelling, without raising your voice, without attacking. So, yeah, I'm gonna look into that.
All right. So the second part, the extra part to that is let the little stuff go. Communication is hard, but well worth the effort. And then last one, that one, it says communication prior to marriage as well as during marriage, specifically about children, finances, and in-laws.
Mm-hmm. And so you see how so many of these things tie together. It's like stuff that we talked about at the beginning. It's just comes back up. Yeah. Just proves the point that I was saying, is that we hear it, but we don't hear it. Like you said, we hear it here, but we don't hear it, and sometimes it just goes in one ear and not the other. That's why I think premarital counseling is so important, and just counseling in general. Yeah, I was going to say, though, I'm going to throw that out there. People talk about premarital counseling, but sometimes you need to tune up as you're going, though. So sometimes for sure. Counseling, into the marriage, marriage coaching, whatever it takes, because just like we say, children don't come with manuals, well, neither does your marriage. But sometimes it's good to gain wisdom from somebody who has walked this walk to say, look here, baby, let me teach you a little something. Ain't nobody told me nothing. You can't say that anymore. I can't. Wish I had known that every single decision you make is no longer about your life. That thing right there. It's about the life you make with your partner. You have to think about how a change in your life will affect your partner's life and the life you have built together. I'm gonna let you take all of that because I saw you rear back on that. No, it's just that thing right there. It goes back to the selfish thing that I was talking about. Every decision you make, think about your marriage as a pool. And then you drop. Every decision is a drop, and you see how that ripples across the surface. It affects everything, and I don't think we consider that enough. Every decision that I make affects you and affects my kids. Every decision that I make has the potential to be a blessing or an issue in our marriage. Nothing is just me. We have to change the me to the we, and it's like selfish behavior causes so many issues. And actually, I won't even say just selfish, naive as well, because some people just don't know. They just really don't think about the ramifications. The checking in thing that you talked about earlier, that was a struggle for me, because it was just like, I've been on my own since I was 16, 17 years old. I do what I do, and it wasn't a matter of I was upset that you were asking. It was just like, what does it matter? I'm gone. I'm grown. I'm coming home. Don't mother me. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'm coming home. It's like, I'm not like not coming home, you know what I'm saying? But it just, I didn't get it, you know what I'm saying? And there's just so many things that we just don't get. But yes, every decision affects us, and not just us, our children, and the generations to come. You make a stupid decision on your job, it affects your spouse,
Yeah,
because you may lose your job. And then your household is in a financial situation and they're struggling.
Yeah.
You make a great decision in your life, and God blesses you. And now your house is blessed, and your children are blessed, and the people around you are blessed. You know, every decision we make.
Absolutely. Hey, Brenda.
What's up, Brenda?
Wish I had known before I got married that marriage, it's not 50-50. You give your spouse your entire being. Sometimes it's 80-20 or 75-25. Just love as much as you can.
You know, that's a staple for us.
Yeah.
That's a staple for us. You give everything you got at all times.
All the time.
If your everything is 200%, cool. If your everything is 20%, okay, God will have to make up the difference. But because
we help meet.
Yes, we help meet what's missing. And when you're thinking about that 50-50, you're always looking to see what the other person's not doing, which then resentment and contempt and discord and issues, and you ain't doing this and you ain't doing that. And then you're looking through the rose-colored glasses of 50-50 of he's not doing or she's not doing.
Well, I washed the dishes yesterday. He didn't wash them.
And nothing that man or that woman can do is going to be right after that, because your view is distorted.
Wish I knew more about teamwork when handling finances. Second part of that is wish I had known finances in relationship. And that's one of those things y'all have heard us often just talking about communication, even with finances, because one person may be better with finances than the other. So tradition may say, oh, he needs to handle the money. But what if he's not good with money? Maybe if she's better with money and she budgets better, just whatever. You have to figure out what works for your relationship. And you can't act like, well, what's that commercial? Well, you gave your children the green dot card, the chime card. Well, we used to keep our money in the mattress. Okay, just because that was what worked for you back then, we're not going to put the money in the mattress right now. We're going to find a different way to build on whatever, finances come into the house. You just have to do what works for your household.
But you have to talk about it before you get married. Before. Because you cannot assume anything, and you also have to be aware of the red flags, or just the flags. They may not always be red, but it's like, give me some yellow ones out there, but if you see your potential spouse, potential mate is always spending and they don't put anything away, that's just something that that they are a spender. If you see somebody, if your spouse or significant other or soon to be spouse is always at the grocery store and they're couponing and they're looking for deals and stuff, that's a sign that they may be financially responsible, and you got to know your limits. If you know you are horrible with finances, don't act like I'm the man. So I'm gonna be in charge of the finances, and you can't balance a checkbook, don't even know what a checkbook look like, account overdraft, So just talk about it ahead. I joke, but talk about it ahead of time. And there's no right or wrong answer. Oh, really? There's no right or wrong answer on how to do it. It's what works for your relationship, because it's your relationship.
Yeah, thank you, Tasha, for saying that. That's right. It's not right or wrong. It's just different.
It's just different.
And if you have two people that are big spenders, you all still, again, communicate about the finances, because you have to find that balance of how to make things work. So like you said, you're not just all dragging out your finances and just broke all the time.
I want to make this point, going back to the rose colored glasses. If you have a mate who grew up in hard times and could have grown up in a single family household, saw their parents struggling, and money has a different value and has a different, it takes up a whole different shape and meaning compared to somebody that maybe grew up in a 2-person household, high middle class, was able to go out and buy a car. Parents helped put them through college. This person didn't even go to college, or they had to drop out because they didn't have enough money. That is going to affect the way that you both look at your finances.
Absolutely.
And like you said, there's no right or wrong answer, but you're looking through, you got to also check yourself. Am I looking through a lens of poverty? And so then I'm always speaking poverty over my life and over my marriage. You know, I remember there was one point, you know, in our marriage where it was tight and we were struggling. And then we got to a point where it wasn't. And I remember, Leslie,
I know where you're going.
You don't know where I'm going. But it was like, I told her to go buy something or shopping or whatever. And I was like, yeah, for yourself. And I'm like, you're not broke. But she just couldn't do it because for so many years in the beginning of our marriage, we struggled. And it was pinching pennies. And the repo man showing up at the house and everybody be quiet. You know, it was that serious. And then, but to have the finances now to do those things, it's like, no, please go out. And she just couldn't do it. And then she had me on the rack looking at straight to the clearance. And I'm like, ain't nothing wrong with clearance.
I still do that.
Nothing wrong with you still do. But I'm just like, if you don't go treat yourself.
I've gotten better.
You have.
I've gotten better.
I came in with a bag last week.
It was week before last.
It was week before last.
Week before last. But I've gotten better. But that was my thing though, because I was in that stage of money is tight, and I had to make sure that what we needed for the household was there. So I didn't buy for myself. I didn't do for myself. You know, now we are on a budget. You know, we do work on a budget, but with that in my budget, I have my hair, I have my nails, pedicure. I mean, you know, I've incorporated me into our budget though. And that, again, communication. We had to communicate about how we would do the finances and stuff. And also in making sure, and I'll just throw this out there because I thought about this and we're going to keep going, but making sure that however you handle the budget, like in our household, I handle the finances. But I know my husband, and I know there's certain things that he likes to buy. We have beautiful aquariums in our house. And I do say aquariums with S's on the end. And I know how he enjoys those and how he likes to keep them beautiful and purchase stuff for them. So in our budget, I am not going to be like, well, here's your $50 for the week. You know, like I'm putting him on this restriction, whatever, you know. Yeah. I just make sure that there is money in the account for him to do it. And if money is tighter or if I see he's coming outside of his budget, then I will bring it to his attention, not in a motherly way, but hey, babe, can you pull back on your spending until after Friday if you get paid next week, and then whatever, you know, and it works. But again, at the end of the day, it's still all about communication.
Yeah. And you got to communicate on the other end, because there'll be times where I'm like, hey, I want to spend this.
And those are the big ticket items, right?
Those are the big ticket items. She'll be like, all right, go ahead.
Those are the real big ticket items. Get
off my hat.
Those hat purchases. Then I have to get the phone calls. Hey, babe, is it all right? Yeah, we good.
Hey, that last hat shop in Maryland, boy, I was like,
I was praying before we went in there. I was praying.
This one of the ones I bought when I was in Maryland. But I was like, too good. Keep it on a budget. Keep it on a budget. But yeah, anyway.
Wish I had known before I got married the importance of respect, both giving and receiving, and the importance of finding someone who is going to truly love you, honor you, and respect you. That's a mouthful. That's a mouthful. I don't even know where to go with that one though.
Okay. Well, the first thing I think is you both have to understand your definition of respect and what disrespect is. Because it's one of those words that's thrown around, and respect to there's so many layers to it. Like there are certain things that are disrespectful to a man that aren't to a woman, and there's certain things that are disrespectful to a woman that aren't to a man. There are certain things that I find offensive that other guys might not find offensive. So what is your definition, and what are your triggers, and what makes you feel disrespected? Having that conversation, because sometimes you can be disrespectful and you're not even realizing that you're being disrespectful, because this is who you are, have always been. This is maybe the way you talk. This may be the way that you grew up. And to you, it's nothing, but to the other person, it's crushing. Mm-hmm. To the other person, it's, it cuts and it's disrespectful. And then you wonder why this person is tripping, and you're like, why are you mad? And I'm just talking. Mm-hmm. But you're not just talking, you're cutting, or you're being disrespectful. So defining that in a couple is the most important thing.
Yeah. I agree.
You're not going to add that?
I'm not going to touch that one.
You're not touching that one?
I'm not touching that one. I'm just going to read it and keep
You're just going to read it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But
I wish I had known the dynamics of the difference between men and women. That would have helped me to understand the motives from my spouse's perspective.
Now, that's a lot.
I love that one. Mm-hmm. I do. Not that I love all of them, I'm just saying, but I love that because, that there's a book we've referenced often. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Also, men are like waffles, women are like spaghetti. We reference those books because they talk about the difference just in the male and female, how we are different. The number of words that we use, most women speak 3 times as much as a man does, things like that. So therefore, I like that, because if you understand the difference between men and women, then it helps you, like you said, like the person said, to understand the motives. Mm-hmm. Like David talked about earlier, getting an understanding of what a word means. Because like I said, that's one thing we have learned over the years is, my definition of a word and David's definition of that same word can be totally different. But we have to communicate so that we have that understanding, and then therefore we can move forward with that. But I like that though, understanding the dynamics, just the difference.
I always say, people ask me, I say one of the best marriage advice I can give you is understanding that men and women are different. Completely accept it and work around it. Mm-hmm. You don't go to a Japanese restaurant expecting them to cook Mexican food. You know what I'm saying? Or you see what I'm saying? It's like, the difference. So accept it and work with it. Yeah. You don't expect a cat to bark, act like a dog. You're not going to try and ride a cat like you ride a horse. So we're different. We think different. Our what? Y'all know what I'm trying to say. Tired. Physiology is different. Our mentality is different. There's so much that is different, and it's not a bad thing. It's not just different,
completely different.
And stop trying to change your husband and your spouse into you.
Yeah, because you don't even want to deal with you sometimes.
Would you date you? Would you marry you? Would you? I wouldn't marry me. I would get on my last nerve if I married somebody that was just like me. We would be fighting all the time, and we would be broke. Because we both would just be spending money.
Oh my goodness.
But no, you got to understand the difference. And it's not so much of the differences are not malicious. I think why does he do this? Or, man, she get on my nerves. She always, and it's just different. What's important to her is not as important to you. But it's important to her. So you just change and you listen and you just Stop trying to change each other.
Yeah.
I think that's just, I could talk an hour about that. Just stop trying to change each other. I know we're on time frame. How many we got left? 1, 2. I mean,
2 more left.
2 more left. Let's do it.
We're gonna wrap those up. I'm just gonna pull them together.
All right.
Recognizing the importance. Wish I had known that recognizing the importance of God and how He fits into the marriage if it is going to survive.
Mhm.
And the last one is the importance of having someone in your corner no matter what.
Mm. God is everything. We have this discussion at least every couple of months. Is love enough?
Is love enough?
And my answer will always be yes, because God is love. And if now I'm talking about God's love, and if we love God and we adhere to His direction, and if we submit ourselves to the things that He is telling us to do and not fighting it all the time, it's enough, because He doesn't fail. His love doesn't fail. So if your marriage is rooted in God's love and your relationship is rooted in God's love, just saying, it is what it is. What you smiling for?
Because I was just thinking about our last conversation about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe God's love is enough, but we don't always express or exemplify God's love.
Yes.
You know, because I feel that people can honestly, truly love each other and still be unfaithful.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's when I questioned them, was love enough? But it wasn't God's love. It was.
All right, we got to hit on that real quick. All right, we're going to wrap this up. Promise. But she posed a question of somebody being unfaithful in a relationship. And she said, why wasn't love enough to keep that person faithful? And I said, well,
I said it, but okay.
How'd you say it? How'd you say it?
We're not putting it out here like that. No, go on.
Okay, so I said, we put a standard on everybody else, but we don't put the same standard on ourselves. Meaning, God loves us. We say we love God. We say we will worship you. We will do whatever you say to do, God. We'll follow your rules, your commandments, all that stuff. Oh, but I slipped and I messed up. Do you not love God anymore? Or did you slip and you messed up? And I know it's a sensitive subject, but in a relationship, the minute there's infidelity, we say they don't love us anymore. Now, I'm not saying that knows their responsibility. I'm not saying that at all. But God, do you look at your relationship the way that God does?
Yeah. And that's all, David. I thought that was a good point when he made it. But the point that I made was, I know of relationships where, because a woman knows if a man really loves her.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that of relationships where the husband was unfaithful, but the wife chose to stay in the relationship. And at the end of the day, the question sometimes is, well, why did she stay? Because she knew that he loved her. She knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that he loved her. But my question behind that still then, well, why was love not enough to keep his body parts in the household?
Hey, why is love not enough for us to act right and not sin?
Yeah, so I got you.
All right. I think we wrapped it up.
So that was it for this week. That was what I wish I had known before I got married. But we're going to understand the assignment. And you can no longer say, because ain't nobody told me nothing. You can't say it anymore, because we're shedding some light on that.
So that was 20 things that people wish they do. And so I know, and I hope that it blessed you, but I know that it did. I know you got something out of it. Again, share it, tag somebody, put it out there. We love y'all. We're going to do the next one. The part 2 is going to be mistakes that we made in marriage. So
now we got a list if y'all want to share, because like I said, you all were awesome in responding to our questions. So if you want to share some more, we've got the email address on the screen. As you see, we kept everything confidential. We ain't calling nobody out to say that this is what they say.
If you want to email us, you want to message us,
send it in.
But we just want to talk about the mistakes that we've made in marriage, so people can see that they're not alone. You know, and that we all make mistakes, but you can still overcome those mistakes, and you can still have a great marriage, and you can still learn and grow from it. So Share it, share, all that good stuff.
Especially
Anything
with
else?
singles and newly married people, single people who you know want to be married. Like I said, if you're gonna make the decision to be married, at least make an educated decision.
Say that. Say that.
Again, we love you all. Thank you so much for your patience today and for sitting here with us and all that stuff. What was that? I love y'all still. Your message has always been a blessing to me. Oh, thank you so much, Tasha. Thank
we
you,
love
Brenda.
you, Tasha.
We love you guys.
Love you too, Brenda.
Thank you. We appreciate you all. So we will talk soon. We'll see you all next month. Have a great day.
Have a good night.